So it is Thursday, January, February, March, April 13th, and yesterday was 80 degrees, today is 80 degrees, tomorrow is going to be 80 degrees. We went to a few AC maintenance calls, and one of which is a longtime customer who's had a refrigerant leak for a couple of years now that we put sealant and dye in, and we, in the maintenance, found evidence of the dye in the evaporator coil. So we were able to place the order for the coil right after we got out of the job and picked it up, and now we'll be putting it in. It's a Rheem Prestige unit. It's a 3-ton, or actually I think it's technically a 4-ton coil, but with a 3, you could put a 3-ton TXV on it, so we're going to be swapping that out, and the filter dryer, and hopefully I get some good footage. Okay, so I got my gauges and a hose in my tool bag. You're just grabbing everything else. We're going to start with recovery, and I'll show you the outdoor unit. First things first, gonna pull the disconnect. And here's our unit. It is a 3-ton from 2012. It's 410. Let's see where it says it. Right there. Gonna get the screw off so we could pull the cover. And here's our filter dryer, old and rusted. Hopefully we can heat it up and just pull it out instead of cutting. But the new filter dryer is going to be a little bit bigger anyway, so we might be fine with just cutting it. Oh, I put the wrong head on. Just got a bunch of new of these Malco 2-in-1 nut drivers. Just has one screw on. We'll replace the screw today that's missing. Here's our condensing unit. Probably gonna replace these Schrader cores too, just because they're cheap, and why not? But we'll get our gauges hooked up, and the recovery machine with the recovery tank that Peter will bring over here, and start vacuuming down. Okay, you can see we still have a good amount of pressure in it, so got the recovery machine hooked up. I already purged out the hoses. This tank was in a vacuum, vacuumed it down. So it's just pulling it in without even turning the recovery machine on. But it's set to recover. We're gonna press start. And it's gonna start pumping it into that recovery tank. So we got the charge out, and I hooked up my nitrogen, and it started flowing a lot of oil and the dye. So I'm purging some of the oil and the dye out through this hose and into this rag to get the oil out before we start brazing and unbrazing. That way we're not just burning oil inside of it. And then we'll flow nitrogen when it comes to actually brazing. And still got some oil. Okay, so we have our nitrogen in braze as low as possible, and I put hot block on to protect the valve. I'm gonna see if I have any luck sweating this out, because it would stink if I can't unbraze it. So so got that done, and while it's actually, I'm going to bump the purge up a little bit so that I don't get any shavings into the pipe. I'm going to clean the fitting off a good amount with some scratchy vapor. And I know some people are going to say you should be putting the filter dryer inside, but I actually just watched a video yesterday that for the best operation and keeping the system as clean as possible, you should put it outside for a AC system and inside for a heat pump system. So, and it was already here, so it's just going to be much easier if I keep it in the same spot. Here is our filter dryer, and I'm just going to clean that out a little bit, even though it's brand new. And it should slip right on. Yep. And then I'll clean off this connection as well for the other side. Here. Make sure we're in all the way. Put a little bit to me. There we go. And I'm actually, if you could get me a Sharpie, I just want to mark it to make sure it doesn't move while I'm brazing this one. And we'll see if I can braze it. I am using the Silphos 15, usually use Stay Bright 8, but I had a bad week on a brand new system. That didn't show till the next day, even after a vacuum and nitrogen pressure test, so I'm using braze now. And we have an oxyacetylene rig, but it doesn't have oxygen right now, so I'm just using the turbo torch. Stop it. Okay, so here's the brazes. They're not the greatest, but they should hold. And you can see the paint's pretty much completely still intact. And I cleaned off all the hot block that I could. And now we'll move on to inside. Okay, so here's our new coil. Here's our old coil, and we have to do some work. We have to take off this tubing and install the TXV. And we're converting to a RCHL36A1. That is what's on our plate. So we need to also put in our .099 piston. So we're gonna do that, and we gotta braze in the capillary tube as well. Okay, so I took out the seal and the .082 piston from right in here. They give you a little special tool to do it, which I already lost. And just dropping the new one in the same, what I hope is the same direction. Yeah, in the same direction. And then put this O-ring right in there. And that's it. We'll put the new TXV on and we'll do a little bit of brazing. Okay, so we got all our TXV work done outside. And now I'm gonna braze my connections inside. I do have nitrogen flowing through the suction line this time. Actually, that's not gonna work. I have to go change that. Okay. Oh no, I thought this wasn't gonna work because I didn't know if I pulled off the red hose, because that would be depressing the Schrader core. But I hear it coming out here, so we're good. We're flowing very low, like 3 CFM for brazing. And I'll make the connections.
Good. Let's get some wet paper towels for over here.
Okay, and you can see them now that they're all cleaned off. This one was a little snotty, but I did have to fill a big gap back here. But this is how they look. I haven't brazed in a while. Been so used to the Stay Bright, but they should all hold. We'll do a pressure test now, and then we will do a vacuum and decay test. Okay, so I've got my tightness test turned on. So far only 20 seconds. Pressurized, and this is closed. I'll close off the tank too to be safe, but now we just wait and make sure our pressure doesn't drop, that we don't have leaks anywhere in anything I did or anywhere else other than the coil. And then we can do a vacuum. Actually, I haven't pressurized the condenser because I didn't want like oil coming back or anything when I was purging, since we're only doing work on this. But when we pull a vacuum, we'll definitely be vacuuming out the condenser too. We're not gonna just pull it on the line sets. And so far so good, zero difference, little change in pressure or in temperature right there. Reads the temperature clamp. I have it shaded so the sun doesn't affect it. And we'll let this go. We'll probably be good, and then we'll hook up a vacuum. And taking a look at the old coil, I had used the the UV light, and right over here we were picking up dye. You can see right now I'll wipe off my glove, nice and dry. If I wipe it over here, we got that dye and oil in the pan. So Okay, so we're doing the vacuum now. I'm just plugging the port with a rag so it's a little quieter. Probably gonna take a while. Probably gonna have to do like a triple evacuation on it just because of all the oil and it being open to atmosphere with a leak for so long. But we have the True Blue hoses with the field piece 6 CFM vacuum pump and the Blue Vac Plus micron gauge with our Schrader cores pulled. Okay, so I did the triple evacuation, and now we're actually starting to pull down to good numbers. So I'm gonna start getting set up to add my refrigerant in the least invasive way possible, and that's gonna be purging my manifold with the refrigerant and then closing the isolation and coming in through this cap right here. Once I have some pressure in it, then I'll take everything off and then I'll finish charging it to exactly what it needs to be, which is around 10 pounds. So I'm gonna get that all set up now. Okay, so we did pass, and now I can turn off my pump and start charging, which I can only do with one hand, and Peter's, I need both hands to do it, and Peter's inside, so I can't record it. Okay, so I put just about 1 pound in, just enough to keep the system under pressure. So now I can put in my Schrader cores and have some pressure to prevent me from getting air in, and then we can charge it and make sure that it operates properly. Okay, so I got my hoses on, the cores in, my temperature probe's on, which I covered again so the sun's not affecting the reading, because they have this little metal nib on top. And let's see, our liquid line temperature we're reading at like 80 degrees. If I take it off, it's probably gonna go up. Yeah, 81, 82. So I'm assuming that's the better thing to do, so that's what I'm doing. And once it stops pretty much filling, we'll turn the unit on and let it pull in the rest and check our subcooling and our superheat, and we should be good to go. Okay, we got our 9.7, it says 9.72. It's actually 0.1 off from the scale shifted a little when I rehooked up the hoses, but we're looking for 9 degrees. Subcooling at 95 degrees Fahrenheit, so we want to be around that area. But our outdoor ambient temperature is 80. What's the liquid line pressure, Peter?
305.
Yeah, so we're over. Whereas if it were 85 degrees, then we'd want 109. But we're at, it says 79, so we'll see. So I'm not sure if I need to add any because of the distance of the line set. I'm not exactly sure how long it is. But our coil also is like brittle and disintegrating in places all around the unit. So that makes sense for our pressure being a little higher. As long as we don't freeze and we get a good subcooling and our amp draw is okay and our temperature split inside is okay, I think we're gonna be good. Right around here. It's still bouncing a little bit because it's only been running for so long, but it's what we're at right now. Okay, reading 54 at the register. And check our return. Thermostat says 76. Probably gonna be around that same number. See where it ends up at. Okay, so we're holding steady at 71.5. So 71.5 and 54. That's simple math, but I don't feel like doing simple math, so 17.5 degree delta T, which that seems good to me, especially for a system that's about 11 years old now. And we're gonna insulate this line. Peter's gonna do that right now, just so it's not dripping when it starts to condense. Okay, so that's it. Everything's working well. It's condensing nicely inside. A little bit of condensate outside. Got the 2 screws in. and just got to collect payment. That went fairly smoothly. The first coil of the season. Okay, so we're all finished
At the
up.
stop sign, turn right onto Lawson Boulevard.
We're gonna head over to Mike's and probably do a tune-up on his AC units. It is reading 84 right now outside, and it feels like 100 degrees in the truck, but we're finished with that. She's very, very happy. She's been using Mike for, I think, since like 2012.
Turn left onto
So that's a
Atlantic
long-time
Avenue.
customer. We've been there a lot for all different things that she has, but hopefully you enjoyed watching the video. I know people are gonna critique where the filter dryer is, the brazing. I'm sure they'll critique something else, but like the video if you liked it, comment any advice or criticisms, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.